All right, everyone. A very good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Not sure where you're joining from. Maybe it's not morning for anyone unless you're out of the US. Welcome to our webinar masterclass on SEO, AIO, GEO, and AIO. There's a lot of things, a lot of names. We'll discuss all that. I'm sure Charles has some interesting things to talk about that. But a big welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time and joining this session on a Thursday evening. So the topic for today is stop getting ghosted by AI and train LLMs to uh, recognize your brand, show your brand in LLM searches, AI overviews, and all that fun stuff. Very important because I had marketing for Designity. I'm Durga, by the way. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Durga. Um, we ourselves here at Designity have been really making a lot of changes in terms of increasing our visibility, not just on Google search, but all the LLM platforms and AOUs and all that stuff. And we also realized that organic channels are really high converting channels in terms of customer acquisition, the percentage of customer acquisition, all that stuff. So we realized that it's a very important topic and a missed opportunity, especially for LLM visibility if you're not in the forefront. So for that, we have invited two really fantastic guest speakers. One of them is Charles Taylor. Charles owns his own company now called Charles Taylor Online, but he has had multiple years of experience, I think 2 decades of SEO experience, working for companies like Verizon, Fox, and a bunch of other great companies. And now he works with different clients as a consultant and white label services. The other speaker we have is Sara Taher, and she works as a senior SEO analyst for CBC in Canada. I will let both of them introduce in a second here. But if you have any questions, please type your questions in the chat box here. We will try to get to them towards the end of the session. If you're not able to, we will always send you responses on your email addresses separately. So with that, Charles and Sarah, once again, big thanks for joining us for this session and giving us your time to share your insights on this very intriguing, interesting topic. So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself and then we can dive into the conversation and the discussion for today.
Okay, I can chime in since I'm not able to sit on the couch. Hey everyone, I'm Sara Taher, and I was able to change my avatar finally. I've been doing SEO since 2014. I worked agency side and client side. I love SEO a lot. You'll probably come across me on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter and I'm pretty active. I'm trying to contribute to the community, and I'm super excited to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me here as well. My name is Charles Taylor. I have a little over a decade of enterprise SEO experience. Like you were mentioning, I was previously with Fox for about 3.5 years. Before that, I was a little over 5 years with Verizon. I did a little stint with an e-commerce company, ran I think there was like 10 or 12 different e-commerce sites that were under us. And before that, I was with a little company called LexisNexis, so we did legal marketing. I'm now kind of on my own. I decided to give it a shot on my own. It's going all right so far. And yeah, I do a lot of consulting, a lot of white label work. And really, I just, I agree with Sarah 100%. SEO is just amazing. I just love it. It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
It's really, what I enjoy about it is it's always changing. Like you can't ever just rest on your laurels. I'm not just sticking the round peg in the round hole for the next 20 years. It's something that you got to keep, you got to keep learning new things. That's what I love about it.
I love it. I think
Perfect.
with,
Uh,
sorry, go on, Sarah.
no, I think I forgot that I'm a guest, not the moderator. You go ahead.
No problem. No, I think totally agree with you, Charles, especially with the pace at which things are changing with AI in SEO. I think there's a lot to learn and unpack almost every day. So with that said, let's dive into the discussion. I mean, let's start with the elephant in the room. Is AI replacing SEO jobs? First question. Or is it just changing the way discoverability works? Charles, you want to go first?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is eventually it might. As of right now, definitely not. Think of it this way. So I'm old enough to remember when the internet just started out in the 90s. And everyone was talking in the mid to late 90s, oh my God, this is going to change everything. This is going to change everything. And the internet did. It definitely did change everything. But it took about 10 to 15 years for it to really start making massive changes. I think AI is going to be the same thing. Everyone can see that it's going to make big changes, but it's going to be, it may not be slow. You know, you're going to look back in 5 years and be like, oh my God, remember 5 years ago when we didn't even know what AI was, or we just learned at ChatGPT? So there's going to be time for everyone to do and learn what they need to learn. It's not going to replace SEO as much as it is going to reshape it. Right now we think in terms of deterministic, do I rank and where do I rank? Whereas in AI, it's going to be, am I cited? Am I cited properly? Which LLMs cite me? So it's going to be more probabilistic than deterministic.
Fantastic. You want to add to that, Sarah?
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I mean, it does change how we work today. There's a lot of things that you can automate with AI. For example, you can categorize pages and keywords with LLMs, or you can brainstorm. You can write meta descriptions if you want to. I'm not saying they're important or anything. You can write schema code. Like there's a lot of it does impact the way we work today, and it does makes a lot of things easier. And then when it comes to search, I mean, we're seeing AI overviews, obviously, and we've seen feature snippets before. So theoretically, they're the same concept, obviously different systems and different scale and a lot of differences, but conceptually they are similar. And I wouldn't say this is like users are like, hey, AI changed the way we search yet. A lot of people are using ChatGPT. A lot of people are using Gemini and so on to search for things and learn about things. Perplexity as well. The adoption rates are very, very early. I think we're also looking into AI mode. Maybe that one day will be the default. Google did mention, hey, this is the future of search. Obviously, once if it ever comes the default, this is a huge, huge change in the way we work and the way the world searches, right? There's a lot of adoption for us to happen. That's supposed to happen, but I don't see SEO going away. I see it changing over time. And I know this is one of the things we're going to be discussing. There's a lot going on, a lot of things that are changing, a lot of things that are new, but we're not fully there yet. There is some impact, but I wouldn't say huge, right? On the opposite, actually, sometimes I feel there are misuses of AI, right?
Yeah. I think your voice is breaking, Sarah. We can't hear you anymore if you're saying something.
No, I finished.
Gotcha. No, I think totally agree with you. I mean, SEO is not going anywhere, at least as of yet. So I think the conversation for us today will be like how to balance SEO and AEO, GEO, whatever you're calling it as of now. But let's get to the next follow-up question to that. So why are so many brands then getting ghosted by AI, even when they're ranking really well on Google? This is like a big question for a lot of brands. They're doing really well on Google, but LLM searches and visibility still seems like a distant dream. So what's actually happening behind the scenes? Could you tell us a little bit on that? Charles, you can go.
Oh, yeah, sure. So one of the reasons why brands, even sometimes large brands, are getting ghosted by the AI these days is I'm going to blame SEOs. I'll take some of the blame myself. Everyone's been doing a really good job of optimizing their websites. We haven't really been doing, I'm going to say, I have air quotes. I don't know how to do air quotes in the avatar. I'm going to do air quotes, proper marketing. We haven't really been doing multi-channel marketing, or if multi-channel marketing's been happening in organizations, everyone's been working in a silo. I know that happened at all the organizations I work at. Kind of everybody worked in their own little silo, and they need to work together. So let's talk about how did SEO help to cause this problem. When you underrank, you want to make sure you use your keywords, and then Google got more sophisticated, and so you started using variations. Then Google got more sophisticated, so you start having to use keyword variations, then co-occurring keywords, whether you want to call them PFIDF, LSI, whatever terms you want to use, entities, and we're optimizing our content. But we never branded our content. So the LLMs and the bots are roaming around, they're finding all this great content, but it's not branded. So they don't know who's making this content. And so that's one of the big changes that needs to start happening. You'll hear me say this over and over again, is start branding your content, even on-site content. And I know as an SEO, I never branded content on-site or off-site. You need to start branding your content. And you need to make sure that you're always putting forward the same message. You need to make sure you have a consistent message. And the 3 questions that the LLMs and the bots and Google wants to know about you is who you are, what you do, and where you do it. And you need to be consistently answering those 3 questions, whether it's on your Facebook profile, whether it's in a YouTube comments or YouTube video description, or whether it's on your website.
Love it.
Okay.
Sarah, you have gone.
Yeah, I agree with the part about multi-channels, right? Like a few years ago, just before ChatGPT, if you as an SEO say, hey, I want to audit your social channels, I want to audit YouTube channel, I always love doing that. I want to audit anything outside of the 10 blue links. You want to talk about anything else, that was a big no. You will just get blocked, right? I remember vividly, I had a client and they had an Instagram account and was active, and I recommended, hey, since you're posting anyways, how about we try to use your posts on Instagram to get some authority and that sort of thing. Even if you put a link that's not clickable, Google can still read it. And that was actually turned down. So the way we used to think in the past obviously was very different right now. We're as an SEO, our roles are expanding. The skill set is, expanding even more. The scope of work is expanding as well. Like things are changing in that aspect, and some of the things are becoming like we don't know what the future of the 10 blue links will be like, right? So I highly recommend to focus on different channels on top of SEO, the traditional 10 blue links and the traditional Google search results. I think this is something we definitely need to look into. And let's also keep in mind that there are situations where websites have been totally annihilated in search, like Find This Best, for example, but it still has some visibility in ChatGPT and LLMs, and we need to ask ourselves why, because obviously there are other channels than just the Google search, right? So there are discrepancies. Some websites are performing good in search, but they don't have what it takes in the training data to perform well and get good visibility in LLMs, and vice versa. Some may not be having the ranking factors or whatever, or have been even penalized, which usually happens because of spam or low quality content and so on. But yet they're still getting a lot of visibility, or any type of visibility in LLMs, right? So that's the area where we should be looking, and that's the area where we should be testing and analyzing.
So that's a great point, Sarah. I'm glad you brought that up about penalized websites. So I have a client, they came to me, I met them at a conference, and they're like, look, we think our domain's penalized. And I started working with them, took them on as a client, and I think they're right. There is some kind of weird penalty on their site. But I got them an AI overview. They're now getting as much traffic as they used to their brand because the AI overview now references them, and that's sending traffic across from Google. And so it's interesting how the systems aren't, even Google's own systems aren't communicating with each other efficiently. So if you're here from Google, pretend you never heard that. But yeah, it's some cool stuff's going on. And I think to reiterate, and this, Sarah, you touched on as well, I think there just needs to be a coordination between the multiple channels now that we didn't have to do. Like Google's algorithm was, straightforward. Put the keyword here, put the keyword there, get a couple links, and you're going to rank reasonably well. And the more authority your site has, the better you're going to rank. And that was easy, and we were able to kind of cheat, for lack of a better term. And AI's looking at it, as of now, the AI and the LLMs are looking at it in a much more holistic view. And so, as marketers, we can't pigeonhole ourselves as much. You may specialize in something, but you got to communicate with the other teams.
Fantastic. I think what I love about the full discussion. Sorry, Sarah, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, so AI overviews by design is using fast search and magic to retrieve and summarize the information. And fast search is actually fast from the name, obviously, but it can, but there's a compromise, right? There's a trade-off, and the trade-off is quality. So actually, you may be lower quality, and you still get cited in AI overviews, and that's why there's some discrepancies here, and we need to figure these things out or have a better understanding of how fast search works, for example, because people who are not able to rank, they're able to find a workaround, or as you said, cheating or that sort of thing, right? And likewise with LLMs, the difference, they don't work the same way. Yes, they use search for grounding, but they don't fundamentally work the same way Google works, right?
Totally agree. I think what I was saying, what I loved about this discussion was how the old playbook, but also fundamental playbook of multi-channel marketing is kind of back in conversation. People started looking at channels individually and optimizing individual channels, whereas not realizing your brand doesn't work like that. So it's funny how AI has got us all back to the fundamental playbook of multi-channel marketing. So I, as a marketer, it makes me happy. So cool. Let's move into a little bit of a definitions here. I'm sure a lot of us here know what AEO, GEO, AIO, all that means, but Charles and Sarah, if you can break it down for audiences, what exactly is GEO or AEO or AIO, that'll be great. And how are they really different from traditional SEO in practice?
Sure. Sarah, do you want to go first this time?
I think I speak a lot. I just spoke. So yeah, you can go ahead. I just don't want to take the whole conversation. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Yeah, so I don't know what acronym I'm supposed to use. I've just been using AIO, AI optimization as kind of a generic term. I've heard the GEO kind of popping up recently in the last month or so. I really, it's not. Yes, it's different from SEO, but it's an add-on. It's something more you're doing. So in SEO, you just worried about, is Google seeing your, is Google seeing your, it's a mindset difference. Is Google seeing your content? Is Google seeing your page? Is Google seeing your content? Is Google seeing the optimization? Whereas now with AIO or GEO or AEO, you really want to make sure, do the AI or the LLMs, do they understand what you're doing? Do they understand, again, the big three questions? I'm going to repeat this like a gazillion times. Who you are, what you do, where you do it. Do they understand those things? If they don't understand it, and if they don't understand, it's because you're probably not being clear in your content. If they don't understand it, then you probably won't be cited. You need to make sure you're answering that question both in your content, on-site and off-site, because it's a little bit of an echo chamber with the LLMs right now. They're looking for this information in multiple places. So you don't have to be super creative. Having been doing SEO for a while, I can tell you that everything that's old is new again, and there's a lot of old SEO tactics that work amazing at AIO or GEO or AEO, because the systems, at least with Google's AI's overviews, the systems it's the same systems, but clearly they have different processing taking place in the background. And Sarah, I know, alluded to this a little bit earlier. But I think I went off topic a little bit, but yeah, AIO is different, and I see that as I use AIO just as my catch-all term for everything. I don't use GEO ever. I'm not sure why I don't. I just don't ever. I don't use that term.
I think the term GEO is becoming associated with a lot of negative, ideas. Like a lot of, and there are actually reasons for this. Like there are people who are misusing the term GEO and hey, Google is dead. SEO is dead. This is the new thing. Hire us, and then we're gonna do all the magic and get to all the traffic from LLMs. While in actuality, SEO is not dead. Google is still dominant. Traffic from LLMs is very, very low. And a lot of people are arguing, hey, there's not a lot of differences in the tactics. I think there is a few things here and there. So for example, it's not part of our usual SEO work to look into Reddit and how can we have some visibility there. It's not part of, like when you say SEO, then it's different than YouTube SEO, for example, right? But now you need to look into also YouTube if your client has YouTube assets. You need to look at those videos and how we can optimize them, how we can use them, because AI overviews, for example, cites around 25% of the citations are YouTube, Perplexity as well. So yeah, it's becoming important. So there are things we don't traditionally do. I'm not saying they're like groundbreaking or something absolutely new, but they're just not part of our traditional work. The scope expanded. So from that standpoint, yes, if you want to say GEO or you want to say whatever, AIO or whatever, that would work. And then the platforms you're covering, you're no longer just fixated on Google. You're also tracking and monitoring your clients' performance in other platforms like ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and so on. You're reporting on that. You have goals to achieve there, and maybe potentially you would come to situations where you say, hey, LLMs are accessing a specific page on our website regularly. Maybe this is a page we can update a little bit to improve our visibility, or the information that is that the LLM returns in the answers about our brand. You may not have needed to do this in your traditional SEO work, right? Like, so there are a few things that are different. There are more work to be done, and in that aspect, yeah, geo or whatever you want to call it, it's different. But if you're expecting something that's groundbreaking you've never heard of before, I mean, so far, I don't see anything that's, hey, this has never been heard of before.
Agreed 100%. That's like I said, there's a lot of old tactics that are suddenly new again with AI and LLM. You guys have to use them a little differently. And I think, Sarah, you started getting to the point, right? And I think we're going to jump into the next question here, actually, is like having separate strategies. And I would kind of push back and say, well, what is the strategy? Because like, does a company even care that they're in Perplexity or ChatGPT? And if they are, well, how do they want to be cited? And how do they want users to find them in those platforms? You have to really understand, what's the business goal? What's the business? So first, we have, whether it's your own organization, whether it's a client, whether it's an employer. It's, okay, number one, what's their number one KPI? How do they make money? All right. Now, once we understand that, then we have to understand, okay, what are their metrics for success? And then you can back into, all right, then how do we use this new AIO, GEO, whatever knowledge? How do we use this to help us achieve those metrics and then ultimately the KPIs?
You're following that up, Sarah, or?
No, I agree.
Fantastic. I think, yeah, a lot of interesting insights, Charles and Sarah. I appreciate that. I think Neil Patel calls it still SEO, but he calls it search everywhere optimization. So I'm like confused what I should be going with at this point. But for our audiences here, I think at least the current terminology is GEO is generative engine optimization, AO is AI engine optimization, and AIO is AIO use. So those are the abbreviations for those that are wondering.
I just I don't think it's Neil that's calling it search everywhere optimization. I think Rand Fitkin is the one that came up with this abbreviation, like interpretation of SEO. Just yeah.
Gotcha. I heard it from Neil, but I
No,
don't
it's
know who
okay.
came up. I don't know who came up with it first, but I think,
Yeah,
there's like a
yeah.
lot of definitions, and everyone wants to, be the first to term it something. So, end of day,
Everybody
I
wants
think,
to coin the phrase. Yeah, that's true.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think what I love about what you said, Charles, again, is the old fundamentals are the new again. So, it's again going back to the basics and looking at simple things, even like schema, right? Doing it in a more detailed manner is one of the tactics for LLM search visibility. So there's things like that that SEO, if done right, then you have done half of the work for your LLM searches. So love that. All right, let's move on to the main question. How do you train LLMs to recognize your brand? And just to follow up to that, like what tools, data structures, or even content formats are proving useful right now for AIO, GEO, whatever you want to call it, and which ones are still more hype than help?
Okay, I can go first.
Yeah.
I would say listicles are a popular place LLMs pull from. If you if you search for your main keyword or prompt on ChatGPT and see the sources, a lot of times it's going to be like top or best, and it's a listicle. So you want to get visibility on listicles. You want also LinkedIn Pulse as well. You find it cited in AI overviews. You find it cited in Perplexity. I'm not sure if this is a trend that's going to continue, but it is strong. So there are a few things like this. But these are not like, we don't know how sustainable these things are. They are right now. LLMs are easy to trick compared to Google. They are not ready for the amount of spam SEOs are capable of, unfortunately. Um, uh, Reddit, of course, to my recollection, it forms 5% of all training data for LLMs. However, it has a weight of like 20% weight. So Reddit is very important. So, I mean, these are some of the things, and as I mentioned, YouTube as well. I think my concern is if I have a brand and they say, hey, Sarah, we want to also optimize for LLMs, or that's very important to us and so on, we need to understand or like put the amount of effort we need to put on this should be equivalent to the value we can potentially get. So we still need to be focused more, and most of our efforts still should be on Google. But yeah, that's all I have
That's
to say about
100%, Sarah. I agree with that so much because like I've had so many people come to me and say, I want to show up in the LLMs. Okay, what do you want to show up? How do you want to be found? And for lack of a better term, why do you want to be found? Like, what do you think it's going to do for the organization? And when you look at the numbers, like there's just not that much traffic coming from the LLMs yet. It'll come. It'll be there, but not yet. Yeah, Google still. You still need to rank. You still need traffic from Google because that's still going to drive 95% of the traffic. I'm sorry, I just want to jump in there because that's so true. Like so many folks want to. I want to show up in AI. Why? There's not that much traffic coming from it yet. I'm not saying you shouldn't.
Yes.
I'm just saying,
Yes.
do you understand from a business standpoint why you want to do these things?
That's a great question to ask, honestly. I mean, I think with the FOMO we all are having around AI and all this conversation, LinkedIn, any other social channel, it's mostly people talking about AI. And obviously, someone, in a specific role is thinking about, I'm missing out on AI. I need to make my brand be visible here. I need to, optimize my ads with AI. So there's all that FOMO, I guess, that's kind of making people, run into that area and try to figure this out. But having said that, I think the traffic is only increasing on these platforms like LLM channels. So being on the forefront, I think it's important. So, but yeah, great question to
It
ask.
definitely
Why is
worth
it
it.
important?
Again, I'll use my example of, when the internet, first started coming out. If you didn't have a website in 1997, would it crush your business? No. What about 98? Nope. What about 99? Nope. Like how many years you have to go before you had to have a website, and then if it wasn't a perfect website, if it was, just a couple pages, were you still okay? It's like there is no line in the sand. And I would say the same thing here. Like think ahead. You should be thinking about the AIs and the LLMs. You should be preparing yourself. But if it's not, if you're not performing perfectly, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just be like, all right, what can we do? Now you were mentioning Sarah, I think you mentioned, Sarah, you mentioned like schema and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, like, okay, if you don't have robust schema throughout your website, definitely make sure you do it. Make sure you're identifying your website, your organization, your web pages. Make sure they all tie together with the key fields, so that and then any external sites that you can control, make sure those are updated properly as well, so that they cross-link together via the schema with things like same as or important links. No, not important. I forget what it was called, but it basically it's a way to show entity associations. Things like Wikidata. How many people haven't even thought about Wikidata in the last 15 years? What does it, if you're working for a large organization or even a smaller organization, are you in there? What does it say about you in there? Because the LLMs, they're going to be pulling from all these different sources, and you want to make sure everything agrees.
Yeah, I like the analogy you gave with websites and businesses having websites, and how in the early internet days it wasn't a thing, right? Didn't matter. And another example that's similar, when social media first started, being everywhere, most businesses or all businesses didn't think of the way to leverage this, and then over time, as social media users grew, and more people are there and more people are engaging, all brands now have a social media accounts and pages to represent their brand and promote their products. So I mean, in a way, that's also similar.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like, how many businesses ran out and created MySpace pages and then eventually Facebook pages, just because everyone was talking about social media. Should you have made them? Yeah, probably. But again, going back to what we both talked about in the very, very beginning, it's got to be part of a larger marketing strategy. If it's not part of a larger marketing, doing it, it's just sucking up resources. So it's fun to talk about, and I'm not saying people shouldn't be. I don't say worry about it, but not people should be thinking about it and starting to change how you do your sites. Again, do branded content. Everything should be structured and chunked. You should have your schema, robust schema on your site. Do these things so that you will be able to get the attention of the LLMs. But understand, we're still in the beginning, and it's okay if you're not at the absolute forefront. Just don't ignore it. Don't panic over it, but don't ignore it either.
Totally agree, Charles. Thank you for that, Sarah and Charles. All right, let's talk about themes and workflows for a second, and let's zoom out a bit. How should SEO and content teams adapt workflows to handle both SEO and GEO without doubling their workload or burning out? And I think if you can share any examples, that'll be great, especially from a cross-team collaboration standpoint.
I mean, there are good ways. I mean, if you're using Ahrefs or SEMrush right now, I like that they have the functionality to monitor your brand there. You don't need to have a different dashboard somewhere else, which, I mean, if you need it, you need it, right? But if you don't, like if it's not pressing or you don't need that much of details, you have Ahrefs and you're good. Establishing systems. I think the most important thing we should be doing right now is establishing some type of internal reporting process for those tools, for LLMs. Like, what is the value they're bringing? What is the traffic they're bringing? How many times are they hitting on, like, accessing our website, and so on. And just for you to know, there are incidents where Google bots or other bots are overwhelming websites by requests that bring no value to the website. So we need to have this data first before we're able to build a strategy. And that's where I would start. I would collaborate internally with the dev team, try to get access to server log files. There's a free, there's a free log file. There's a lot of free log file analyzers. You can use them to get an understanding of what's happening there, which pages LLMs are visiting, how often they're visiting, and like, once you have some data and you understand what's happening, then you can come up with insights. So you start. My recommendation is work with the data team, work with the dev team, and start from there. Create a dashboard.
I agree 100%. Yeah, start with what's your goal? What are we trying to get done? Now, as like a team member, as as like a manager or director of an organization, the way I would look at it. So for those of you that have a team under you or are thinking of building teams, so my first bit of advice when it comes to GEO, AIO, whatever, um, if everyone's responsible, nobody's responsible. So that means somebody has to be in charge of it. Somebody has to be in charge of the report. Somebody has to be in charge of looking at the data. Somebody has to be in charge of reaching out to the different people. So the way I would personally do it if I had a team under me now, I would say, okay, well, I might have a technical SEO. I might have a content SEO. Now I have somebody that focus on the GEO. And that's your primary focus. Now they're going to have, just like Sarah said, they have to have metrics. What are you measuring? What's our metrics? We have to have something to be aiming towards, but I would have somebody responsible for that. And then again, make metric and make the number so that everybody's pointing to it. And then that way when they communicate with other teams, we can say, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is how we're going to try to accomplish it. This is why we need your help, or this is the help we need from you to be able to accomplish this. And then once you do that with folks, they will most likely think, okay, yeah, it makes perfect sense. So yeah, I would, and even if it's an existing person on the team, like maybe you take your technical SEO and say, hey, you want to start messing with, you want to start being our GEO point person as well. And like, yeah, great. So yeah, have somebody responsible for it in the organization, in team, and they're the ones, Sarah's point, that'll be getting the data, doing the regular reporting, but also they're going to be the one where it's like, all right, we want our brand to have an AIO, let's just say, something simple. That's our goal. Okay, well, how do we get there? And then just, build a plan and start working through it. But again, having a point person, I think, is important. Having everyone's responsibility means it'll never happen.
I love that. If everyone is responsible, then no one is responsible. I love that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, insightful.
Yeah, and Charles, I know we didn't necessarily talk about this beforehand, but you mentioned metrics, and are there like any interesting metrics around AI visibility that you want to tell our audiences to focus on? I know it's evolving and more things might come up, but as of now, what is it that you're seeing?
Most folks are using tools, and I agree and disagree with it at the same time. Like, it's kind of the only metric we have, but most folks are using tools to look at their citations. How many times are they being cited for specific types of questions? The problem I have with these tools is, again, the LLMs, they're probabilistic. They're not deterministic. And we're trying to take like the old ranking factors and then, which was very deterministic. Either you were number one or you weren't number one. And you check the LLM, you ask ChatGPT the same question 5 times, you're going to get 5 slightly different answers. So tracking mentions and citations, look, it's better than nothing. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying understand that you're tracking a probabilistic metric and not a deterministic, meaning it's not always going to be exactly the same. If I look up and I say, oh, the sky is blue, and I see the sky is blue 10 days in a row, does that mean the sky is always blue? No. Sometimes it can be white because there's clouds. Sometimes it can be dark because it's nighttime. So just understand that you're looking at something that's constantly changing, and that's so it's so yes, citations and mentions. That's what I would use, but just understand that it's not like ranking factors. It's not static. It changes regularly just by the nature of the LLMs and the AIs.
Awesome. Cool. That's great. I think, Sarah, you mentioned SEMrush and Ahrefs especially, right? In terms of tracking some AI-based metrics.
I mean, there's a lot of tools that specialize, right? There's a lot of tools that specialize in tracking. But I mean, all SEOs use either or both SEMrush and Ahrefs, and I think they're a very good place to start. And if you're asking about matrix, I think one of the things I want to look into how to measure, and it's a challenge, the probability of being cited for a topic, right? So, for example, I'm promoting my SEO for Python course, and I want to know how many times, or as Charles said, we're talking about probabilistic and not deterministic measurements, right? So how likely am I, as my course or as my name or that sort of thing would come up when people search for or prompt ChatGPT for topics related or under Python for SEO. So that is a metric I'm very interested in. I don't have a, like, all I'm thinking of right now is, hey, this can be automated with Python and an LLM. You generate a bunch of prompts with an LLM, automate that, and like, for example, so the workflow would be input a main keyword or a topic, Python would take it to an LLM, you generate a bunch of sample prompts, and then you run them by ChatGPT and then analyze the output and give some number, but that's obviously not ideal because there's a tremendous number, like possibilities of prompts, right? So I would have liked to have a good answer, but I don't.
Yeah, I think it's evolving. So if someone tells us they're now AIO, GEO expert, then it's tough to believe because it's evolving. Everyone is learning. So totally fair. Thanks for that, Sarah and Charles. All right, let's get to one of the last questions before we wrap this discussion up and open the floor for questions. So for marketers, SEO specialists, anyone in content, SEO, marketing, all that stuff, from their career standpoint, what new skills, habits, or mindsets should they be building right now to stay relevant in the next 12 to 24 months?
I would suggest, yeah, I was just saying, I would suggest, so a lot of folks, I know they think, oh, I got to learn prompting and I've got to become an expert prompt engineer. And I've been taking kind of a contrarian view of that because I think everything's going to be so different in 12 months, 16 months. With that said, you should be using the LLMs regularly. If you're doing a presentation for work, all right, you should be using the LLMs to help you organize it. Use the LLMs to make images. It doesn't have to, I'm not suggesting use the LLMs to do your work, although I know a lot of folks are doing that. I'm just saying that make sure you're using these things regularly. And you don't have to use a million tools. Pick one. Start working. If you like Claude over ChatGPT, use Claude. If you like Gemini, use Gemini. If you like Grok, use Grok. It doesn't matter. But just start using these tools regularly so that you understand how they function. And then as far as, like, hey, well, what other hard skills can I learn? Make sure you understand schema. Again, you don't have to be an expert at it, but you do need to understand how do you use schema to build the entity of your organization. And you have to understand, again, not the coding part, it's understanding how the different parts link together so that you're telling a story to the bots with your structured data. So I would say that was very important. And I would also suggest one last thing is, who you are, what you do, where you do it. Make sure that you have that very clear brand message defined for your organization, and discuss it every place.
Love that. Totally. You should go, Sarah.
Yeah, I agree with Charles. I think there are two things, right? The soft skills, I would say, we need to learn to ask better questions, look at data in so many different ways. Don't take the obvious answer as the actual answer. So, for example, an example of this is that we as an industry collectively decided that the alligator trend, where impressions are going up and clicks going down, are because of AI overviews. And it did make sense at that time, right? AI overviews launched, and hey, it's taking clicks from our websites, and how the impressions are going up like crazy, but we're not seeing that reflected in traffic. And that is like a very surface level understanding. I also thought same thing, right? But now when Google deprecated the num equal 100 URL parameter, which is a feature that allowed tools in general to access the results in second and third and fourth page, all of the pages, the top 100 results, right, in one single page, and that helped them track rankings and that sort of thing. So it's a feature that Google, if you want to call it a feature or whatever, but anyways, it's a feature that was leveraged by tools and was deprecated. And once that happened, we all collectively saw that impressions were going down, right? For a lot of the a lot of websites. And now I found a one person on LinkedIn, and again, as I said, this was not my idea. I was also like, I took the first answer as the actual answer, but that guy was like, I don't think uh, the alligator is because of AI overviews. That doesn't make sense. If you look now, oh, that's all because of the bot data, the bot traffic that was accessing search and are not able to access search after Google deprecated the that feature. And I agree. I mean, yeah, AI overviews may have some impact, but looking deeper and asking better questions and not taking the first answer as the actual or as a fact, definitely that's something we all need to learn. So that's a work in progress skill. So that's from the soft skill side. The working in general, like what knowledge you need to have, or I would say learn to automate the tasks that should be automated and learn when not to use automation. So you need to learn, hey, this can be automated. Hey, this should not be automated. And when you automate something, learn how to QA it. Yeah.
Sarah, that's an amazing point. I'm glad you brought that up because it trust nothing, test everything, right? Like it's fine if I love reading the blogs. I love watching, I love coming to webinars like this, whether I'm speaking or attending. I love going to conferences. But like when someone tells me something, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I wonder if it's true. Like that's the second thing I always think of is I wonder if that's true and test it. And it doesn't always have to be in this super fancy single variable testing environment, although that is the best way to test things. You can just look at your data and see, does data prove or disprove this theory? And look for ways to disprove it. Don't just look for confirmation bias. Don't just look for ways to confirm what everybody else is saying. Look for contrarian views and then challenge yourself. Say, could this be true? Could this not be true? What does my data show? So yeah, ABT, always be testing. Test.
I think in SEO, there's a pattern where we enjoy joking about Google. What is this? But
Charles, I want to tell our audiences that they can trust us.
Yes, you can trust everything we say. You don't even have to bother
everything we say.
testing it. Just
All right, let's wrap this up with one last question. I think something probably that'll be very important for everyone. If every marketer, SEO specialist, content specialist that is watching this, if they could do one thing or two things or whatever number of things in this month itself to make sure their brand doesn't get ghosted by AI, what would that be or what would those be?
I'd say make sure you're always part of the conversation wherever your customers are having those conversations.
I would say it starts with your content. 3 steps, the 3 steps that I always use when thinking about content is make sure, number 1, you brand it, structure it, distribute it. So your content should always be branded. Number 2, it should be structured, whether like schema or just chunking it together properly, using proper outline hierarchy in the content. And number 2, distribute it. Don't just keep it on your own website. Put that same stuff every place that you can on the web.
Love that. Love both the I mean again fundamentals, right? So back to fundamentals, do them right. So totally love it. Cool. I think with that we can wrap the discussion up and open the floor for questions. But again, Sarah and Charles, really fantastic insights, lot of conversation, a lot of things to learn. And I hope all the audiences also learned something new. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. And this is a cool environment. I like this.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
we have some questions coming in. Sorry, Sarah, did I cut you?
No, I'm saying yes. It's a very cool setup for a webinar.
Fantastic. We have a question from David. Which tools, metrics, or audit methods can marketers use to track if their brand is being represented in AI LLM generated results?
I've been testing a tool called Zofu. That's xofu.com. xofu.com. That's worked pretty well. There's free options. Obviously, there's a paid option there. We're looking to make, but there are some free things you can do. I think it's I will find the link and I'll put it in the chat here. I think it's zofu.com/bofu, B-O-F-U. These people have some really weird acronyms, but you can do a free brand analysis on it. I will double check that, put that into the comments here. Once I find the URL.
Yeah, I would recommend start with Ahrefs and SEMrush if you have access to them. Another tool that's specialized in AI citations, I would say RankScale. Give it a try. There's a lot of tools out there, and the price is also vary a lot. So you need to make sure that the investment is worth what value you're going to get out of that. But yeah, that's different ones, but give a RankScale a try.
Fantastic. I think, Charles, you can't send URLs, I guess.
Yeah, I put spaces. So anyone who can the comment, I had to put spaces in the URL because I kept getting rejected. So, but
Yeah,
those of
sorry
you that
about
can
that.
read between the lines, you can figure out the URL.
Uh,
I'm also
cool.
posting the name of the tool, so you can have it here. Okay. Or you can
I
build
agree
your
with Sara
own,
though.
right?
If you've got like SEMrush or Ahrefs, use that. Like they've got tools already part of their suite.
Yeah,
Awesome. I think
and you can also build your tools, right?
Yeah. AI can help you build your tools.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's not that
I know
complicated, by
nothing
the
about
way.
coding, but I've written so many Python scripts in the last 2 months.
Yeah, see, it works.
Gemini
Vibe
helps
coding
me out.
works.
fantastic.
Okay.
So I have a question. I mean, I know we are waiting for other questions from the audiences, but I have a question in general about the biggest mistakes that you're seeing people make when they're trying to optimize for AI answers, overviews everywhere. Curious because, we want to make sure people are spending time on the right things to, rank their brand or show their brand in these searches. So what mistakes are you seeing so our audiences here can learn about and not make them?
I think I'm seeing people obsessed over tools, uh, while they can actually do a lot of auditing themselves in a few minutes. They really don't need that much of a tool to audit their presence and their brand on LLMs. Tools are great for scale, but you can get enough data or enough insights by testing things out yourself. So I think, getting your hands dirty, doing that work, starting with data and starting with right questions. And generally speaking, people in SEO, a lot of people, or there's a category of people in SEO that look for hacks and shortcuts and, way to manipulate or whatever the tactics that are not sustainable, right? So we need to think of if this is something that's going to work today and then tomorrow we don't know, or if this is something that's, a good long-term strategy. So yeah, I would look into those or focus on those two things. I think those two things are the main myths I see. And then of course we have people trying to sell GEO and services. And as I said in the beginning, SEO is dead and all that sort of thing. This is not, definitely not good. This is not, people who are doing this, they're not in the industry for a long term. That's not a lot, because it's not going to take a long while before, a lot of customers figure out, no, it doesn't work that way. You don't sell GEO services. SEO is not that, definitely, right? It doesn't work like that. So yeah.
Agreed.
That.
It's funny how many people are obsessing over getting citations or getting mentions in traffic from the LLMs. And at best, it's what, 1-2% of your traffic. Well, that's Bing, right? Like how many people said we need to spend more time on Bing over the past 10, 12 years because it's 2% of traffic.
Exactly.
and Google's the other 98 or 97%. And we're doing this, but we're doing that now with the LLMs. We're tripping over dollars to get to a penny. And I'm not saying ignore the AI and LLM citation. I'm just saying don't stop the stuff that we know works. We know that SEO still works. Keep doing it. Just start saying, hey, how can we adjust our strategies so that we can position ourselves for the future?
I also have a comment when I say, when I talk about, hey, people not in the industry for long term, I'm not talking about myself by anyways. I love SEO and this is my plan for the next 5 to 10 years to do SEO. I mean, unless it changes or becomes something else, I'm here. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that people assume when you talk about these things, it's like, oh, they start to feel what I started talking about is believing it. I'm not going anywhere really. So that's what to highlight that.
Love that. No, I think that's totally fair. I think these are things happening, around SEO and geo currently. So thanks for sharing that, Sarah and Charles. We have one more question here. I think we can take this and wrap this up. Someone is asking, Charles mentioned paying attention to AI but not losing your lunch over it. What are recommended ways to keep an eye on AI without being completely overwhelmed?
So what I would do is, as an organization, determine what are your goals. Establish some very specific goals. So for example, your goal may be, number one, when you do a search in Google, we'd like an AI overview for our brand. Like kind of like the knowledge panel. Say, okay, great. That's something to start tracking. You could track it manually. You're not going to change all of your structures. You're not going to shut down SEO practices, but you're going to ask, what could we do to do this? Maybe schema, maybe building more branded websites, maybe making sure we're interlinking our branded social, things like that. The other thing I would recommend doing is there are several tools, and like Sarah said, Ahrefs, SEMrush, they've got, these standard suites have places you can go and look and see, hey, am I getting citations and mentions about my brand name or about my primary service offering or primary product offering in the AI and the LLMs? Are you being cited? Are you being mentioned? If you're not, monitor that. And that's just it. And it's a monthly monitoring. I would also, this third thing I would recommend is monitor in your analytics how much traffic is coming from the LLMs. So you can just be aware of it. And you'll see, number one, it's not a lot. Even if you are being cited, not a lot of traffic is going to come. It's going to be in a couple percentage points. And that's okay. That's fine. This is just where we are. And start watching this. Have it be a monthly report. You will, in a couple of years, say, hey, remember when we used to only get 2% of traffic from the LLMs? Now it's like 7 or 8%. So yeah, it's definitely moving. It's not going to happen overnight. So I would track your mentions and citations. I would track your, maybe like brand and the AI overview. But again, it has to go back to, is it supporting your brand, or is this turned into a vanity metric? The old days, people wanted to rank number one for things, but it didn't drive traffic. Or more important, it didn't drive revenue. And that's really the key. You don't want to focus on things that aren't driving revenue.
Love that. I hope that answers your question. I wish I could see their actual names, but it's called Wealthy Kookaburra. So I hope it answered your question. Cool. We are on time. So once again, Sarah and Charles, thanks so much. Really lovely conversation. I learned a lot, and all our attendees here, I hope you learned something interesting today. I hope you were able to take away some great insights from this conversation. Thank you for taking your time and joining us for this session today. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out on our email addresses, and we will do our best to get back to you. Thank you so much once again, everyone. Have a great day.